Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great middle of the week day, which is a Wednesday. Today, we are going to be talking about Florida becoming a U.S. territory in the Spanish American War. Now, we talked a little bit about the Spanish American War yesterday, about how the treaty gave the United States Florida, Oregon, and had to give up parts of Texas. So, we're going to get a little bit more into that today. And we're going to learn a little bit more about our vocabulary words right now, which is the Adams-Onis Treaty, which is an agreement between Spain and the U.S. This is the treaty that gave Florida to the United States. Cede is to give up territory, land, or power. Spain ceded Florida to the United States. That just means that they gave it up due to a treaty or losing a war or something like that. Paragraph is a group of sentences about one topic, includes a topic sentence, supporting sentences, and concluding sentences. Example, you will write a how-to paragraph at the end of this lesson, but you will not do that. You will not do that at the end of this lesson, okay? You do not have to do anything in the reading, so you will not have to do whatever it asks you to do in the reading for today. All right. Battleship, a large and heavily armored warship. Example, the Spanish-American War began after the USS Maine exploded. And if you notice, I put some arrows and a big thing here that says this will be on the test. So guess what, guys? This will be on the test. I will ask you what happened to the USS Maine. And I expect you guys to know that it exploded and sank. All right, so Rough Riders is an American cowboy and ranchers led by President Theodore Roosevelt. He was not president at the time, but it helped him become president. The Rough Riders traveled to Cuba to help fight the Spanish. Treaty of Paris, the agreement that ended the Spanish-American War in 1898. Example, the Treaty of Paris resulted in Spain ceding Cuba, the Philippines, and Guam to the U.S. for $20 million. This will also be on the test, okay? So I'm going to ask you something about the Treaty of Paris and what happened, or how much did the U.S. purchase Cuba, Philippines, and Guam for? All right, so let's get into how Florida becomes a U.S. territory. We talked about it a little bit yesterday or during the Seminole Wars, and we talked about how the United States wanted the Seminoles to be pushed out of Florida. All right, so just as a reminder, you guys missed a little bit of this. The Seminoles started in North Florida. So they started up here, okay? And then eventually what ended up happening was they got pushed all the way down to here. Okay, so they ended up down here, but they started in North Florida. All right, that's on the test. They started in North Florida. All right, so review of the Florida timeline. This is just a little bit of review. In 1513, Ponce de Leon landed in Florida. He was looking for the Fountain of Youth. He didn't find it. In 1565, Spain claimed the land. In 1565, St. Augustine founded, and that is the oldest city in the United States. And if you notice, two things that I've already said are in yellow, so those will be on the test. So be expected to ask who landed in Florida, or what was Ponce de Leon looking for when he landed in Florida? Something along those lines. I will ask you what the oldest city in the United States is, and that's St. Augustine, Florida. In 1763, Britain controls Florida, and then in 1783, Spain takes control of Florida by force. And we've already seen that that's going to be on the test because I asked you that yesterday. How did Britain lose Florida? They lost it by force, right? Spain came in and they took it over. In 1819, the Adams-Onis Treaty was signed. That is going to be on the test. I'm going to ask you what this allowed to happen. What territories did this give the United States? And that would be Florida and Oregon. In 1821, Florida becomes a U.S. territory, and then in 1845, Florida becomes the 27th state of the United States of America. All right, so that was a review of the Florida timeline. So I will ask you what state Florida was when it entered the United States. So I will ask you that. So be prepared for that also. The next thing was how Florida became a U.S. territory. So we're going to watch a little video here. Um, so I'm going to put it in the chat so you guys can watch it. And then I will be right back as soon as you guys get done watching it. And here is the link for the Florida video right there. So go ahead and click that and watch that, how Florida became a state. So go ahead and click that and then watch it, and we will be right back as soon as it is over. All right, guys. So that is the video. I hope you guys watched that. I will also put that video in the modules for you guys to watch. But that's a little bit of how Florida became a U.S. state by somebody else's account. All right, so what did the Adams-Onis Treaty do? Well, the treaty was signed by President John Quincy Adams and President then of Spain, Luis de Onis, hence the name Adams-Onis, right? Spain couldn't control Florida, no money to send settlers, unable to maintain borders, and U.S. wanted the land. That's what it came down to. As we watched that video, basically the United States said, you know what, we're just going to take Florida. No big deal, we're just going to take it over. And that's what happened. The treaty established a U.S.-Mexican border, and Spain eventually sold Florida to the United States for $5 million. So the gains after the treaty, we went over this yesterday also a little bit. As you can see here, this shaded part right here is the land that the United States gained. They gained all of Florida. They also gained the Oregon County up here, country, which was above the California at the time. And they just gave up their claim to Texas, which was this little sliver there. So they gave up this little bit and gained all this property here. All right. So that's what happened with the Adams-Onis Treaty. So this is going to be on the test. I'm going to ask you what occurred when the Adams-Onis Treaty was signed. The U.S. gained Florida and the U.S. gained Oregon. All right. That's going to be what's going to happen on the test. All right. So I'm telling you that right now. All right. So the Spanish-American War. So what happened? And I thought we had this settled. I thought Spain was like, cool, man, you want Florida? Here, give us some money. But no, something else happened. So the little island called Cuba was being controlled by Spain up until 1897, 96, somewhere around there. And the people of Cuba didn't like it. They wanted to be free. They wanted to have their own government. They didn't want to have Spain controlling them what to say and how to do it. And the United States backed that. The United States wanted Cuba to be free. They respected the Cuban people's wishes. And that's ended up happening with the Spanish-American War. So what happened? Like I said, this U.S. supported Cuba's freedom, okay? They were ruled by Spain. They were paying high taxes. They were mistreated by Spanish. Some of the Cubans were forced into camps. Some of them starved inside camps. Um, Sounds a lot like what Native Americans went through here in the Americas, right? Except for the high taxes part. They were mistreated by the Europeans. They were forced into missions, forced to try to change religions, forced into slavery, and all of that. So then the Cuban Revolution began. All right. So the U.S. sent troops to help defeat Spain. Okay. And this is the island of Cuba right here. And it's 90 miles from south of Miami, of Florida. 90 miles separates us. So the difference in 90 miles, you might be wondering, well, how far is 90 miles? Okay. So if you would draw a line from Columbus, Ohio, to either Indiana or to West Virginia, just draw a straight line, east or west. If you go to West Virginia and cut that line in half, that's 90 miles. If you go to Indiana and cut that line in half, that's 90 miles. So basically, we're not very far from Cuba. All right. So what did the United States do? Well, we sent the USS Maine, and we sent it to prevent war. We didn't go there to bomb people. We didn't go there to, attack anybody. We just sent one ship to prevent war. We sent it there to show that we were going to support the Cubans people and for their fight for freedom. And I think the purpose behind this was we were showing Spain that we were going to fight with the Cubans. So let's not create a war. Let's settle this diplomatically, meaning settle this without a war. And eventually it didn't occur. And why didn't it occur? Because the USS Maine exploded and sank in 1898. Okay, so that's going to be on the test. The USS Maine exploded and sank. And the United States said, we don't know what happened, but the American people blamed the Spanish. The American people wanted the United States to go to war with Spain. And eventually, after the USS Maine exploded and sank, and naval American military members were killed in the explosion, the United States did declare war on Spain. It didn't help that the newspaper reports exaggerated what happened. The newspapers put the blame on Spain, but there was no evidence that Spain did it. There was no evidence who did it. So it could have been anything. It could have been a faulty thing on the ship. It could have been Spain who blew it up. It could have been anybody who blew it up. But the newspapers in America blamed the enemy, which was Spain at the time, and that caused the American people to call for war. So once that happened and American people wanted war, the United States declares war. Now, they didn't go to Cuba at first. So once we declared war on Spain, we decided that we were going to attack the Spanish-controlled Philippines first. And you might be thinking, why wouldn't we just get the Cubans free? Well, we needed to destroy Spain's naval fleet. Okay, so we wanted to make sure that we had command of the oceans. So to do so, we went to the Philippines and destroyed their entire Spanish naval fleet. And that was called the Battle of Manila Bay, which wasn't really a battle, okay? It was pretty much the United States taking their ships in and just destroying the Spanish naval fleet. But before this is the thing that happened. All right, so before the United States declared war on Spain, we actually sent our naval fleet to be stationed right outside the Philippines before we declared war. So that way, when we did declare war, we could immediately attack them. And that caught the Spanish off guard. And we destroyed most of their naval fleets. The Rough Riders, now then we focused on Cuba, okay? So the Rough Riders were basically cowboys, okay? And they got to the middle of, they started fighting in Cuba, and we controlled all the port cities. So basically all the naval ports on Cuba, the United States came in and controlled them. So Spain had no access to anything. So they couldn't get anybody onto the island because the United States prevented it from controlling these ports on the island. The funny thing is, the United States never made it to the capital, which is Havana, of Cuba, and they never made it there. But before they made it to the capital, Spain surrendered. And all fighting officially ended on August 12th, 1898. So that was kind of funny that we never actually took over Cuba. Spain just threw in a towel and was like, okay, we're done. And that led to the Treaty of Paris. Okay. So what did the Treaty of Paris do? The Treaty of Paris gave Cuba its independence. So Cuba was a free country. And it gave the U.S. lands of Philippines, Guam, and Puerto Rico. Okay. And the Philippines isn't just one island. As you can see here, it's 7,100 islands of the Philippines that the United States controlled. And we paid Spain $20 million. So that's what the Treaty of Paris signed. So that's going to be on the test too. What did it give the United States? All right. So did you get it? Yes or no?